Arda Güler, A Family's Hope. February 25, 2005. Ankara, Altındağ. One of the forgotten corners of a big city. A place where streetlights barely work. Where children play football in front of their homes. Where dreams feel out of reach. Here, on the ground floor of an apartment building, a small family lives. And this year, a baby boy joined them. They named him Arda. Life was hard, but they stood strong. His father had one passion above all else: Fenerbahçe. Not just a fan, a man who breathed Fenerbahçe, a man who swore. The blood running through our veins is yellow and navy. Once, during a derby, Fenerbahçe scored, and he leaped off his armchair so hard, he shattered the ceiling light. That passion would find its way to his son. Before Arda could even walk, his father would place balloons in front of his left foot, encouraging him to kick. He wanted a left-footed footballer. The child knew the ball before he knew how to walk. Growing up, there was no PlayStation, no video games, but Arda didn't need them. He played football in front of the apartment, with the older kids on the basketball court, in the schoolyard, in a parking lot, breaking car windows. His father paid for the damage. Even goalposts made of stones made him happy. By the time he turned 12, one desire consumed him: a PlayStation. All he wanted was FIFA 17. He begged his father every single day. "I'll be so good. I'll study so hard." His father kept saying, "Just wait a little longer." Then one day, Arda came home from school and found a box on the kitchen table, a box shaped like a PlayStation. He went crazy. He opened it, and inside were not one, but 20 games. He couldn't believe his eyes. "Did you win the lottery or something?" he asked his father. Then he learned the truth, and his heart sank. That PlayStation wasn't real. Everything inside was a copy. His friends laughed when they saw it. Arda laughed along with them, but inside, he was burning with quiet shame. "I carved that moment into my heart," he would say years later. "But I didn't care that my FIFA was a fake. I loved it anyway. I don't need a real pitch. I don't need a real goal." That fake PlayStation planted the seed of a real dream. Samia Naim Elementary School, Ankara, Edemskut. An ordinary morning. The recess bell rang, and children flooded into the courtyard. A small boy was playing with a ball in a narrow corner. His PE teacher saw him in that exact moment. Mahmut Hoca was not an ordinary man. He understood football, and what he saw stopped him cold. Arda was 9 years old. The teacher went straight to his father. "You need to enroll this boy in the Gensler Burley Academy." His father said no. Getting there and back every day would take hours. He had a shop. He had responsibilities. But Mahmut Hoca had seen something in Arda, and he convinced him. His father began driving him to training every single day. Hours on the road, without complaint, without hesitation. While he was away, the shop was left to his partner. Then one day, his father pulled him aside. "Son, we need to close the shop." They were bankrupt. That shop was the family's only source of income. His friends would invite him out for ice cream, and Arda would say, "I can't make it," or "I'm too tired." There was no money, but he couldn't say that out loud. It wasn't shame. It was a quiet kind of dignity. There was always food on the table. He knew that. He knew there were children without a roof over their heads. He knew he was lucky, and that luck was blinding people on the pitch. In the Gensler Burley Youth Academy, the small players were called iki buçukluklar because they earned 2.5 lira a day. Arda was one of those iki buçukluklar, but his throw-ins were so fast, so intelligent, that local newspapers started writing about him. Half of that assist belongs to that iki buçukluk. He was quickly selected for the Ankara regional team and made captain. One iki buçukluk was about to change the world. An Osmanlıspor versus Gençlerbirliği U14 match. Sitting alone in the stands was Serhat Pekmezci, a young talent scout for Fenerbahçe. He had come that day for a different player, but a boy on the pitch stopped him cold. He'd later described what he saw. I forgot about the player I came for and locked onto Arda. His game intelligence, his first touch, his ability to see the whole pitch, his decision-making speed. It was all natural-born talent. Arda's team lost 2-1 that day, and in the last 15 minutes, he took a blow to his wrist. But he didn't leave the pitch. When his team lost, he was visibly heartbroken. That moved me. He wrote his report the moment he got back to Istanbul. No response came. He waited. Still nothing. So he prepared a DVD, every piece of footage he had of Arda, and delivered it to Fenerbahçe president Ali Koç. Koç personally reached out to Gençlerbirliği president Murat Çavçav. February 20th, 2019, the final day of the transfer window. For just 150,000 Turkish lira and a future sell-on percentage, Arda Güler was transferred to Fenerbahçe. His father said one thing to his son that day: "If you're going to drown, drown in the deep end." At 13 years old, he left Ankara behind. Fenerbahçe moved the whole family to Istanbul. A home was arranged. His father was given work. Arda was enrolled in Fenerbahçe College. But Istanbul was merciless. Ankara and Istanbul are very different cities. Ankara may be the capital, but the money and the opportunities are in Istanbul. One day at school, it was a free dress day. The other students came in expensive branded clothes. Arda came in his uniform. Within a few months, and he wanted to go back home. He thought about giving up on his dreams. A 13-year-old boy, far from his family, lost in a city of millions. But on the pitch, that boy burned through every single training session. In the U19 league, 19 matches, 7 goals, 4 assists. In the playoff match, he scored 3 goals on his own. He could no longer be invisible, even if he tried. August 22nd, 2021, the Antalyaspor match. Coach Vitor Pereira put him on the pitch. 16 years and 177 days old. Arda Güler stepped onto a professional pitch in the Fenerbahçe shirt for the very first time. In the 89th minute, he made an assist. Fenerbahçe won 2-0. Walking out of the dressing room, he was still a boy who hadn't finished growing up. But football had already made him a man. And that winter, the big day came. March 13th, 2022, the Alanyaspor match. He came on as a substitute for Mesut Özil. 3 minutes later, he put the ball in the net. He had become the youngest goal scorer in Fenerbahçe history. That night, he wrote on social media, "Exactly 3 years ago today, I walked through the doors of my Fenerbahçe for the first time. Stepping onto the pitch in the shirt I had been dreaming of since day one, starting in the first 11, is the greatest pride of my life." And a season later, that shirt arrived. The number 10, vacated by Mesut Özil's departure, was placed on Arda's back. The boy from Altındağ would now wear the number once carried by Alex de Souza and J.J. Okocha. In his very first match with that shirt, against Kasımpaşa, he scored 2 goals in 21 minutes. But every bright road has its shadows. During the Jorge Jesus era, weeks passed without a single minute. One day, the coach set up 2 teams for free kick practice. Arda wasn't in either one. Alone in the corner, he practiced corner kicks by himself. Rain was pouring down in torrents. When he got home, he cried so hard he couldn't stop. I made a promise to myself that day. I would never feel that feeling again. Then came February 6th, 2023, the earthquake. A small child had just been pulled from the rubble, his body covered, only his face visible, sirens wailing all around. He had been trapped under concrete for nearly 5 days, and from that child, there was a message for Arda. Arda Güler abi, I love you so much. Keep saving Fenerbahçe. Tell the coach to play you too. And one of the rescue workers added, we didn't give up. Don't you give up either. After those words, how could anyone give up? June 11th, 2023, the Turkish Cup final against Istanbul Başakşehir. Arda was named man of the match. Fenerbahçe won 2-0. The son of a bankrupt family had just won Fenerbahçe a trophy. And that summer, a phone rang. That phone call was the greatest sign that Arda's life would never be the same again. Real Madrid reached out. A video call was arranged. Ancelotti was on the screen. Then someone else joined the call. The man turned and said, I'm Raul Gonzalez. Nice to meet you. Arda couldn't believe it. No, you're not. The man laughed. Ancelotti called Toni Kroos over. Is this Raul? Of course it is. Then Modric. Is this Raul? Of course it's Raul. Arda started to panic. They showed him photos of Raul on their phones. And finally, he gave in. I'm sorry. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Everyone laughed, even Ancelotti. When he got home and told his family, they looked at him and said, Arda, you are such an idiot. At the end of the call, Ancelotti said, there is a great future waiting for you here. And then he insisted, Arda, promise me you'll come to Madrid. Promise me, promise me, promise me. July 6, 2023. Arda made the announcement on Instagram. Goodbye to Fenerbahçe. Real Madrid triggered his release clause with 20 million euros, a 6-year contract. Arda asked Madrid to pay above the release clause so that more money would go to Fenerbahçe. At the signing ceremony, his whole family was there. When my mother started crying, I wiped her tears and kissed her on the cheek, he would later say. They had given up so much to be in that room, and now the dream was real. I couldn't afford to play as Alex Hunter on PlayStation, so I had no choice but to become him in real life. Madrid was waiting, but injuries were waiting too. Long months away from the pitch, fans grew impatient. The press was harsh. January 6, 2024, Copa del Rey, his first appearance in a Real Madrid shirt. Weeks later, in La Liga against Celta Vigo, he came on in the 85th minute. In the 4th minute of stoppage time, he put the ball in the net. Real Madrid won 4-0. And in May, against Villarreal, he scored twice. He made history. The fastest player in Real Madrid's history to score 6 La Liga goals in just 330 minutes. End of season, La Liga title, Champions League trophy. He became the first Turkish player ever to win the UEFA Champions League. Germany, Euro 2024, Turkey versus Austria. Arda Güler became the youngest player in Euro history to score on their debut. A record set by Cristiano Ronaldo in 2004 was buried by a 19-year-old boy. Opposing fans threw bottles, screamed, booed. Arda stayed calm. He later said, "In that moment, I switched into Michael Jordan mode." Turkey reached the quarterfinals. Arda was one of the players who carried them there. Throughout this long journey, Arda kept a notebook. From the day he left Ankara, he kept writing down the names of everyone who had helped him get there. The count had long passed 20. His mother, his father, his sister, his coaches, his presidents, and that PE teacher, Mahmoud Shafak. But Mahmoud Hoxha never got to see the final pages of that notebook. During the pandemic, he suffered a heart attack and passed away. He never got to see his students triumph at Real Madrid, the roar of the Bernabeu, the historic nights in a national team shirt. Arda wrote in his letter, "He never got to watch me play as a professional. Rest in peace, my teacher." Today, Arda Güler is 21 years old and an irreplaceable part of Real Madrid. This season, 50 matches, 6 goals, 14 assists, a direct contribution to 20 goals. In April 2026, a new injury arrived, his thigh muscle. The season is over, but he is expected to recover before the World Cup begins. The story of that boy from Altındağ, with his fake PlayStation, is not over yet. And now, he has one thing to say to every child in Turkey: pick up a ball and run outside. You will feel like you own the world.